Want some, get some. How about those friggin' Pirates?
Yes, I am a pirate.
You have to go with the Pirates because, of course, they have cannons and everything.
It's a pirate's life for me.
Be proud of who you are and what you are. You're a pirate.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Because when you're at East Carolina, you go for it every time. Or you don't coach at East Carolina, you don't come to East Carolina, you don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart. Write it.
I think I've ever been in a building as loud as that was. It was deafening in there.
We will get them on. I can promise you that.
Painted purple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
Yeah. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode.
Welcome into the Pirate Preview right here on the Sports Objective. Pirates hosting UTSA. And ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the great town of LaGrange, it's Kyle from LaGrange. Baba. What's up,
on, Dave? We sit here on a Tuesday night after another losing weekend. Looking forward to getting Kevin our first win against an FBS opponent in Greenville since October 22nd, 2022.
No doubt. And from China Grove, North Carolina, Bubba Rosenbaum, what's up?
Just ready to get a win. After those last two games, anytime you lose, you're just ready for the next game, but especially the way in which the Pirates have lost and having 16 and 17-point leads has been well documented. But the offense, has executed with a little more consistency. Need to take it to another level this week, and a pair of 2-2 teams looking to start conference play on the right foot.
No doubt. Let's bring in the analyst for the Pirate Sports Radio Network. He does it all. I'm talking about Kevin Monroe. We're trying to get a win. I told him pre-show, maybe we can sneak him out there in the backfield and nobody will know the difference. That would be fun, man.
And he responded, he's 47. Nobody wants to see him out there.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You guys had a lot of grit. We've talked many times. I know they're honoring the 99 team. You've been on our show several times talking about that team and Hurricane Floyd and players going back to apartments that were completely flooded. They had nothing. South Carolina letting you stay there an extra week, going to Carter Finley. Who would have ever thought? I call it the Floyd Bowl, where we played Miami. We beat Miami. Nobody thought that was possible. 96, I know, going down to Orange Bowl, same thing with Miami. But anyway, talk about that experience again for people watching for the first time. I'm sure people have heard the story, but for those that don't know, they're honoring the 1999 team, rightfully so. Hard to believe, 25 years, my friend.
Yeah, I guess I'll start from the beginning. Going into that season, we had just come off of a 1998 season, which I believe we were 6-5, 5-6, one of the two. 97 and 98.
6 and 5. You were 8-98. You beat Memphis to close the regular season.
That's right.
On a last-second field goal to go 6-5. That was kind of David Garrard's coming out party that game.
That's right.
Yep.
And so we knew coming back that we were going to be pretty good and that we could do a few games better than 6-5. And so we had the majority of that squad returning. And 98 was David's redshirt freshman year. So 99, he was going to be a sophomore and be a little bit more comfortable back there. And so we were excited. We felt like we had a chance to be really competitive, even though we had a really strong non-conference schedule. And so Coach Logan came to us. We had a player committee. It was myself, Jeff Carr, Forrest Foster, Andrew Bays, Sherwin Lacewell. I think Devon Claybrooks was on there, Pernell Griffin. And he came to us, and it was our job to kind of be the intermediary between the coaching staff and the players. They would say, we're going to practice outside today, and we got, this amount of conditioning, let everybody know, get their minds right, get them prepared so we don't hear a bunch of complaining and blah, blah, blah. Or they'd say, we're going to get these sweatsuits, get them approved by the guys and let us know what you think. just things like that, things that coaches don't want to spend time addressing the whole team about. We were kind of that committee. So he came to us and he said, listen, we got 4 tough games. If we can get through this non-conference schedule 2-2, it puts us in great position to head into the conference and give it a run, against Southern Miss to win this thing. And so, it was a good talk, but it also was a little bit frustrating because we were like, this is a team with a great defense, good young quarterback, good skill position players, a couple running backs that can get it done. Offensive line was strong. We were like, why can't we go and plan on winning all these games? And so after that meeting, we stayed there after the coach left, and we were like, listen, guys, we're not going back to the team and saying that we can go 2-2. We're going to go back to them and say we want to win all 4. And so that was the game plan, and luckily West Virginia gave us some bulletin board material heading into that opening weekend in Charlotte. One of their players came out and said that in order to get to the better teams on their schedule, they were going to have to play some lightweights. And so, we were the first lightweight on their schedule. And so that's all we needed to hear. We played solid against them, got the W, and Jeff Connors, being Jeff Connors, had got us all, lightweight shirt printed out. And we wore the shirts onto the field as we went to shake their hands. That was that old chip on the shoulder that the Pirates used to have. So, we go through that one. I think, Duke is up next. We win that game at home. I think Carl Franks is the coach. His first season there, they're going to more of an air raid passing attack. And so Scotty Montgomery was one of their main receivers. And we were excited to play them, and we get that victory at home. And I might get these out of order, but it's, these are the 4 games. And then you got South Carolina, and South Carolina, we go on the road. And this was right as the flood is starting. As we're leaving Greenville, the rains are coming down, and we're hearing, narratives of they're going to be, big time flood. And so we get there, and I remember my parents couldn't come on the trip because they had to stay behind and make sure the house was okay. And they eventually ended up losing power. Went to Lowe's, bought a generator just so they could watch the game on Saturday. And so this was the first home game for Lou Holtz in that Lou Holtz era at South Carolina. I mean, I don't know, 80-something thousand fans. They packed the place, going nuts. And we went in there and quieted that place. I mean, we played solid defensively, made some plays in the special teams, scored a special teams touchdown. I think we got a pick 6 in that game. And did just enough to get the victory. And it was a great feeling. And, Coach Logan comes to the locker room after the game and says, guys, we can't go back home. And that's the first we'd heard of it. We didn't know that going into the game. He said that Greenville's gotten pretty bad. The flood waters are rising. They're expecting it to get worse. We can't go home. And so we're freaking out. We're like, what do you mean we can't go home? Players are worried about their apartments. Nobody's got any more clothes. You just pack for one night, and that one night's over. Toiletries, all that stuff that you're going to need to stay somewhere. We didn't have practice gear. I remember the equipment managers got up with the equipment managers at the Panthers, and we got to wear Panthers gear for the whole week. That was pretty cool to practice in. But then they had to rally to get us stuff. They had to get us toiletries. They had to give us underwear, all this kind of stuff so we can make it through the week. And so it was kind of a crazy time. We spent that whole week in South Carolina, and you add to that, we just beaten them. So they were hospitable, but they didn't really want us hanging around after losing the game. They thought they should have won, and we were there for an extra week. So that was a little bit awkward. But we spent a lot of time with each other, got an opportunity to go to the movies, go to the bowling alley, ate every meal together. So we loved it. It was great. And we hated it because we were tired of each other. And so it was just a lot to be around the same bunch of guys for a full week. So that was interesting. And we get through that. We find out that we can't play the game in Greenville, which would have been a huge advantage for us, after going down there in 96. So we're bummed about that, but we figure we still have an advantage in Raleigh. We get to Raleigh, and, we're expecting to win that football game. We're 3-0 at the time. We're expecting to win that football game. Things did not start out the way we wanted them to. And they were just stacked. I mean, from Clinton Portis to Reggie Wayne and Santana Moss at the wide receivers, Bubba Franks at tight end. Defensively, the list went on and on and on. All the stars, they consider, I think, their 2000-2001 team to be one of the greatest football teams in Miami history, in college football history. And so most of those guys were on that team. They were just a little bit younger. So just imagine that. I mean, they were ranked in top 10, top 15 in the country, and they got up on us. And we were fighting, but we just we give up a couple plays defensively, and they took that 20-0 lead, and we go into halftime, and we hadn't given up. We felt like we could still come back and win this thing. We just needed. It's funny because I listened to Tom Brady talk about the 28-3 comeback in his Super Bowl against Atlanta, and how he just kept saying, if I get a score and the defense gets a stop, we can just do it again. If I get a score, defense gets a stop, we'll do it again, and we'll just try to get this thing to a one-score game. And that was kind of our mentality. Defense, our only job was go get a stop. Offense, go score. And so it started to happen little by little. And the thing that made us so good in the 90s was that Jeff Connors had us in such good shape that we felt like we could outlast any team out there. And so as we got into that fourth quarter, all the Miami guys were hands on hips, bent over at the hips, just tired. And I can remember hearing Bubba Franks like it was yesterday, like, guys, what are we doing? This is East Carolina. We're about to lose to them. And we just were kind of sitting there, just staying the course, just doing our thing. I guarded Reggie Wayne most of that game, and it was one of the toughest, jobs I had to do. But I held up, made some plays, got a couple pass breakups, forced on the other side to get Santana Moss, which was super tough. But we did what we had to do, and we got off the field, and the offense came through for us at the end, and Keith Stokes scores that go-ahead touchdown, and that was kind of the non-conference season. I think we end up going maybe to Tulane or Army or something. After that, we go to 5-0.
Army,
and then Southern Miss, right? Southern Miss was our nemesis, always had been. I never beat Southern Miss in my 4 years at East Carolina, really 5 years. Count my redshirt year, we never beat them, and so. We knew this was our time to beat them, and a lot like this game this past weekend against Liberty, I think we got up 15-0, 17-0, something like that, and they found a way to win. I mean, they just started running that football with Derek Nix, pounding it right at us, got back in the game and got that victory, and that really kind of soured things because back then your bowl game options were pretty much the Liberty Bowl or bust. In 1996 we went 8-3, didn't go anywhere, and so you had to win the conference to get that bowl game, or you'd be lucky to get something else. A second tier bowl after that. And so once we lost to Southern Miss, it really kind of hurt us. It kind of hurt our confidence. I think we obviously bounced back and won some other games, but that was what was weighing on us as we finished the season to play against UAB down there. I think they ended up playing their third string quarterback. First string quarterback got suspended. Second string quarterback got hurt. They played a third string guy. He was an option quarterback, which we hadn't prepared for. They were just doing a lot of things that we just weren't ready for. And we made a lot of mistakes and had a lot of missed assignments, and you lose that ball game. And that's still the game of my career that hurts the most is that UAB game. Because, you could have finished the season, 10-1. We still had the best, one of the best regular seasons in Pirate history, but to have 10 wins would have been really cool. And UAB just wasn't as good as us. So that was unfortunate. That was also the Rodriguez Brooks games. If you remember him, he was the star punt returner, defensive back. He gets hurt on the field. We thought he broke his neck. They carted him off the field on a stretcher, took him to the hospital, cleared him, which would never happen today. He came back to the stadium, took the jersey off his mom's back who was in the stands. She was wearing a bowl jersey, came back, had a 93-yard punt return, picked off a pass. Just all kind of just insanity going on in that game, and we find a way to lose. So, yeah, that season was wild. It was a great bunch of guys to play with, I really enjoyed it.
You missed the game on that '99 season that you didn't mention. You weren't finished with the non-conference schedule after Miami. There was one more on Thanksgiving weekend. First time NC State ever came to Greenville. What do you remember about that one?
That was the last game of the season. So I was only counting the first four before we got into the conference. Yeah, NC State was the last game of the season, and that was the game that for one, it broke the attendance record. That was the game we went over 50,000 fans. They brought in the end zone seats in both end zones before the Murphy Center was there, and it was the game that took Coach Logan over the top to be the winningest coach in ECU history. Jamie Barnett at quarterback. Corn Robinson at wide receiver, one of the toughest receivers I ever had to guard. He was a freshman. I was a senior, just an absolute stud. They were good. They were really, really good. And defensively, we showed up. I don't think we gave up a touchdown that game. We were chasing Jamie Barnett all around that field. I remember Coach defense coordinator had put in a corner blitz that week. We hadn't run the corner blitz all year. And so I got to blitz Jamie Barnett a few times, which was fun. So that was a great victory. Tons of fans. The place went crazy. We won that game. They carried Coach Logan off the field. It was definitely a very, very memorable game.
Do you think, Kevin, and before we move on from the 99 season and start talking about this year, it kind of ties into this year. When you look back and you talk about beating Miami, you talk about beating West Virginia, you talk about beating NC State, Duke, et cetera, how tough of a pill do you think it is for Pirate fans to swallow, for Pirate Nation, for those of us who are in our 40s or older, to look at Liberty, to look at Appalachian State and understand, people that really follow college football understand what Appalachian State and what Liberty are now. Mm-hmm. They're great football programs. But how tough do you think it is for Pirate Nation to accept the fact that on the field, at least at this very moment, that they have passed us? When you look back in your day, we were beating the Miamis and the South Carolinas of the world.
Yeah, no, listen, to this day, my buddies that played at Carolina, I'm all over them about how they avoided us, how they wouldn't play us, how they were scared of us back in the day. And the legislator had to step in to make them play us. I never got a chance to play Carolina. I was 2 out of 3 against NC State. I was 2-0 against Miami. I think we played Duke just the one time. We might have played them a second time, but I think we were just 1-0 against Duke. I think we beat Wake during my tenure. So yeah, we were beating these teams all the time. Never beat Virginia Tech, but we play these big time teams, and we were always beating them. We were either winning or we were right there with them for the entirety of my tenure at East Carolina. And so yeah, I mean it's tough to know that schools that were not too long ago were FCS teams, Division I AA, what they used to call them, and now they have passed us in terms of winning FBS football games, being good in their conference. Coastal Carolina's another one. These teams are all right now on a better trajectory than we are. Considering the last 14 months of Pirate football, and so it is tough. I think the same thing sometimes when I think about basketball. How are schools, like Wilmington and places, in cities around here that aren't Carolina and State, how are they better than us at basketball? And so we've got work to do. But specifically talking about football, it's disappointing.
No doubt.
Yeah, Kevin, as far as I want to ask you this really quick. When you look at talking about the 99 team, you look at this team, what's frustrating, I'll go ahead and segue into this season. What's frustrating so far is I think last year, I just want to get your opinion as a former player and analyst now. I think we have way more talent this year than last year, but it seems like we're seeing some of the same things from last year creep into this year. And when you have 16-0, 17-0 leads, I know it's possible for the other team. There are 2 teams we played. We're not knocking them. We know they're capable of coming back. But it's just frustrating to see a great start, and then we kind of like play conservative, play calling. We're not focused, or I don't know what it is.
Learning how to win.
Yeah.
I think it's part of it.
That's the key. And to what Kyle said earlier, these teams have surpassed us in that they've done a lot of winning. Liberty has won like 16 straight, regular season type games. Appalachian State is just used to winning close games, close, tough games. And so when you play a team like that and it gets down to the nitty gritty and they are used to winning, which becomes contagious, and they know how to make the right play towards the end. You look at they pick off Garcia, we drop our interception. It's just the small things that lead you towards wins. And that's what it is. It's frustrating that both winning is contagious, but also losing is contagious. And you know what to do to lose. And I feel like we just haven't gotten over that hump yet. It was nice to win 8 games a couple of years ago, but this is a new bunch of guys. And to your point, Dave, yeah, they're much more talented. I mean, our quarterback situation last year was abysmal. We're much better off this year. albeit there's a lot of mistakes being made, a lot of turnovers being made, but you see the arm strength and the accuracy most times from Jake Garcia. We didn't have that last year. And this offense, it is creative. I think sometimes it gets more conservative than it should, but it is creative. We're seeing a lot of guys get opportunities, Anthony Smith and Winston Wright, and now that Sowell's back, Spalding. I like our receiving core. We've put a couple balls on the ground that we've got to be better at, but I like what they can do offensively. And then the offensive line added some new pieces, and they're not bad. I mean, they are, Garcia's not on his back on every play. He's not having to rush all the throws. He has time to throw. And not every running back has gotten great numbers, but Rajay Harris thus far has been really good. And he's averaging 4 yards a carry plus. He's making things happen. And so the pieces are there. We just find a way to make mistakes in inopportune times, throw an interception. We're going on a drive last game and Sowell, fumbles a football in the middle of the field. That might have been the app game, but it's just things like that just happen that kind of just destroy your momentum and give the other team an opportunity to make a play, and the other team usually does. So yeah, it's a much better team, and I think there will be a lot more easier games than what we've played so far towards the back half of this schedule, and I think we'll win some games. More than likely, we'll be bowl eligible. And I think this team will get used to what it feels like to win, and maybe that'll propel them to next year being a better team from the start. But it has been frustrating thus far because, they could easily have won all their games.
When you look at this weekend against UTSA, the Roadrunners last year, really good football team. Frank Harris, their quarterback, was there literally 7 years. They don't have him now. The kid that's playing now, he started last year against the Army. They lost that game. They're 2-2 this year. Beat Texas, not Texas Christian. Beat Houston Christian. They beat Kennesaw State. Lost badly to Texas and to Texas State. They're very similar to what we are in terms of losing quality football teams, beating bad football teams. They come here. I feel like this. I mentioned to you earlier we hadn't won a game against an FBS opponent in Greenville since October 22nd, 2022 against UCF. Hard as that is to believe. I feel like this is, you hate to say must win. I think the Charlotte game is a must win, but this is pretty close to a must win situation as you can be early in the year. At least I think to the fan base. I think we really, and to the players too, to gain confidence. But this is a very winnable game. It ain't going to be easy though. What are your thoughts on what you've seen of the Roadrunners so far?
Well, you know what, I'll usually get it more into my research as the week goes on. So I haven't done a ton on them so far, but just the little bit I have, as you mentioned, they beat the teams they should beat. They've lost the teams that they probably should lose to, which is kind of what the Pirates have done. And when I listened to the Liberty coach talk prior to this game, prior to our game against them, he said the same things. Like, this is going to be the toughest game we have this year. Matter of fact, he had been there for a little over a year, and he said this is going to be the toughest opponent to come in to Lynchburg to play us since I've been here. And so he put us up on a high pedestal, and he said, good things about Coach Houston and the program, blah, blah, blah. And all that was true, but they still find a way to keep their head, play well. They got behind and find a way to beat us. And so right now we're at this point to where, all right, we're playing an FBS opponent that's quality, that beat us on the road down there last year. We have to defend our home field. That Appalachian State crowd was the biggest crowd we've had in Greenville for at least a couple years.
Yeah, South Carolina game in 21.
Yeah, and so if we want to continue to put butts in seats, we've got to win these type of games. These type of games where we come in, maybe it's a toss up on the spread. I don't know exactly what the spread is right now.
East Carolina by 4.
So yeah, and so these type of games, you got to hold court. You got to win these games. You got to cut that offense loose that we've seen flashes of, that we've heard so much about. Defensively, they got to play better in the secondary. I mean, since Revel went down, this secondary has not done so good, and they've backed off of the bump and run coverage and playing man every down. They're trying to let those safeties help out, let the linebackers help out underneath. I like the young linebackers that we have, the transfer linebackers. I think they're playing well. Edwards is playing well. And so we let those guys get into pass coverage and help the corners out. Lamp, number 11, played a little bit better last week. Of course, Gavin Gibson is back there playing some corner. And so there's some guys back there to try to fill in for that spot that Revel left. And so I think they've got the ability. IBM is solid. He's not Revel. And so we've got to protect those guys and do some things defensively to make it where they don't get beat over the top. And coach was dialing up the pressures last week, running some different blitzes, trying to get the ball out of the hands of quarterback quickly. Aguilar, 2 weeks ago he was the real deal, and he made every throw. He did the same thing, up there a year ago, and so that was a tough one. This one, the Pirates should have come away with the victory, and just didn't work out. But I think this UTSA game is a very, very winnable game. I think both teams are comparable, and I think if the Pirates can keep them turning the football over and keep drives going, and Jake Garcia, he's never going to play mistake-free football. It's just not his game. He's a gunslinger. But if he just minimizes the turnovers, I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
Last week against Liberty, I personally, and Bubba, you played quarterback. I thought Garcia had improved dramatically, quite honestly. I know he had the interception at the end of the game. That really was not a bad throw. It was a tough throw. It should have been caught, honestly. But I thought he played well. Do you think, and Bubba, you also comment on Garcia's performance last week, if you will, but Kevin, do you think that was enough for Houston and Baker to trust him a little more to open things up more going into the UTSA game?
I think it was, and I agree with you. I think he played much better, and I think they maybe dialed it back a little bit from what they had given him in the first couple games, and they said, okay, we want to make these throws, we want to hand the ball off a little bit more, establish a running game, and so I feel like that's where they felt comfortable with him. And you're right, he played pretty much mistake-free football. That last play, he just eyed the receiver down too long. And they were coming across zones, and that corner was sat at home and jumped in front of that ball and picked it off. And I don't think he ever saw him because he was following the guy that was coming from another zone. And
you mean the App State game?
Yeah, you can't make that throw on first down. We just gotten a first down. You can't make that throw on first. I tell my quarterbacks all the time when I'm coaching 7-on-7, we don't throw interceptions on first down. And you got 3 more downs to go. Take your time, throw it away if you have to. And so that's what he's got to learn to do. But yeah, I think because he played like that and because he played better in that scenario, I think they will give him more and give him more and give him more. But he will just throw that football. And if he sees a guy with the slightest little open area, he will make that pass. And so that's what makes JDB nervous. That's what makes Coach Houston nervous, is that the things that they love about him are the things that they cringe because he may throw that ball in a double coverage, hoping that his receiver makes a play. And so that's what we got to be worried about.
Bubba, what was your thoughts on Garcia's performance against Liberty?
I agree with you guys. I think he did a better job, obviously taking care of the football. Did have that one pick that you referenced there when it's a desperation situation. And like Coach Houston mentioned in the post game, it hit the receiver's hands. I would like to see him throw the deep ball a little bit better. I know we completed the one on our second possession, which really seemed like our first possession because it was after the nearly 5-hour delay. It ended up being a back shoulder throw to Chase Sowell. And Chase had 2 or 3 yards on the corner, and could have laid it out there for him and potentially been 6. But fortunately, we scored anyway. But that's one thing I'd like to see him throw the deep ball a little bit better, because there have been other occasions as well where we've had receivers that are at least a yard or 2 behind the corner, and we've underthrown it.
Against Liberty, a lot of people were complaining about Garcia not putting enough air under the ball in the deep throw. He had Anthony Smith wide open and put too much air under it, and ended up being an incomplete pass.
Yeah, and there was another one like that when it was really windy against Old Dominion, where it got hung up in the wind. But what a job he did with his legs when we had that third down and goal.
Yeah.
At the 8-yard line, he ducked out of it, and just kind of a Houdini type of effort there, and a physical run where it looked like we may come away with a field goal after 6 plays inside the 10-yard line.
Yeah, and he talked about that today. about he never ran the ball in high school. He did not start running the ball until he was in college. He said, he broke his ankle against Miami, running the ball. And he said the coaching staff is really working with him on how to protect his body, but still be able to be a productive runner. And I really think he's got a lot of natural scrambling abilities. It could be a weapon in the RPO, letting him pull it on some design runs. So I hope they don't overcoach him to protect his body too much. He's a very in shape kid. He's a very physical quarterback. He ain't David Garrard, but he's not a little, he's got some size to him.
Yeah, and I like the as Bubba was talking about. He lowered his shoulders to dive in the end zone. I thought he was going to get concussed or something. I'd rather see him go about it a little different way than what he did, but just to show that passion to want to get in the end zone is what you need out of your quarterback, to know that he doesn't want to take the field goal. He wants to go score. So that was good to see.
Yeah, and it also sounded like, Bob, I didn't mean to step on you. I'll shut up after this, and I promise. But it did. It sounded like today, listening to Garcia talk in the press conference post practice. Sounded like he wants to take a little bit more of a leadership role. He talked about how he needs to motivate the team to stay positive, and I heard him talking about. Just heard some leadership things out of him that I hadn't heard so far. So glad to hear that.
Yeah, your quarterback has to be your leader. I mean, your quarterback is always the captain of the team, and whether they're always vocal or not, some quarterbacks just are and some just aren't. But you lead by example. He's got to do a little bit of both, just to rally this team, to let them know they can count on him, that he knows he can't make all the mistakes that he's made, and it's just going to make the defensive guys want to play harder for him. I know. In '99, it was tough for us having a young quarterback because we felt like he would make some throws that he probably shouldn't make. But we showed that we were confident in him, and then we showed that we were, we'd go back out there, get the ball back to give it to him, give him another opportunity. And so, as you said, that's when David started to blossom because he had the respect of the team, and we would fight for him.
Excellent question here by Robert Dedrick. He says, does Kevin think Liberty opened up a roadmap for other teams to run on us? They ran for 190 yards, a little over 4 yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken. They seem to run away or outside of run support linebackers. I know that's a point that I was going to bring up as well, as far as their success on the ground, which was almost solely in the second half and that final drive, I guess, of the first half. And, they got Cooley going, ended up running for a little over 100 yards, far and away the most yards we've allowed on the ground this season. And
we won't get another back that good, probably.
App State had to do it all through the air, and 425 yards passing. Liberty, 5 touchdowns in as many possessions, which we discussed on the playback. We never thought we'd see that. 5 scores on 5 possessions, much less 5 touchdowns. But they had a very balanced attack and were able to make it happen. But, Kevin, what are your thoughts there as far as the Pirate run defense?
So, I don't expect it to be a roadmap per se. I think we do have a very strong run defense usually. And this is a kid, Cooley, who came in averaging almost 8 yards a carry against some opponents, and he was playing really, really well. In the first half, we just shut him out. We shut him completely down, and they gave us their best shot. I think it was a number of things. I think it was guys being tired, being on the field a lot, guys getting worn down in the second half. Mentally, the offense was struggling, and so you're back out on the field. And you're thinking, man, we're doing everything, and you start to get this split, this rift between the offense and the defense. And this is all speculation, but I think that had a lot to do with it. When you don't play well in the second half, it usually has something to do with you being behind in the score, or things not going your way, or not scoring points. And so I think that we've seen a lot of games of the Pirates play very, very well against the run. I don't think that's going to change. Certainly the fact that we've gotten gashed in the past probably made Coach Harrell make some changes defensively in the secondary, maybe go to a little bit more nickel, maybe try to protect some guys, so not have as many guys in the box on run plays. And so that's going to show them when they hand the ball off. And, it's the quarterback's job to come to the line of scrimmage, assess what the defense is doing, and then check into the right play. So as we're back there setting up for them to play, for them to pass the football, he checks into a run play. We got 6 in the box. All of a sudden he's gashing us. And so I think that checker, that chess match between Coach Harrell and their offensive coordinator, they won out because they were able to manipulate our defense and get what they wanted from certain looks. So I don't think that, our run defense is all of a sudden bad. I think that, we just got a scenario where we were struggling in the pass defense, and then that affected our run defense. And so, I expect them to go back to the drawing board, make some adjustments, and to be better in both this weekend.
And Kevin, I know you talked in depth about the 99 experience, kind of at least wrapping it up from myself with this. I heard Andrew Bays on Pirate Radio in the last day or two talking about how he had, contacted at least about 55 or 60 of those 1999 team members. And, who are some of those guys that you've heard from that I know are going to be coming back? Jeff Carr and, perhaps somebody that's down east like a Pernell Griffin come to mind.
Yeah, actually, Andrew and we talk quite a bit. Andrew and I are pretty good friends, and he's been texting me, and Andrew's the key to this whole thing because he's in Greenville, and he just started reaching out to guys, and so he's kind of pulling a lot of this thing together. Keith Stokes and Biscuit have done quite a bit as well, but in terms of contacting the players, it's been mostly Andrew, and so just looking at so Kevin Ward, obviously from Kinston, will be here. Antoine Yelverton from Snow Hill, Pernell Griffin, Travis Heath from Tarboro, Samine Jones, Wes Craven, I believe, is where Samine went. Phoenix Evans, another East North Carolina kid. But then just guys that you would know, like John Williamson played linebacker, Norris McCleary, Big Norris, Big James Bell, offensive lineman, Chris Nelson, Aaron Walker, another offensive lineman. A lot of guys. I think we've got a list of about 30 so far that have confirmed, and several, Lamont Chappelle, that haven't yet confirmed, but we know they said that they're coming. I hope to see Mark Yellock. It's just been a lot of guys that were on that team that I haven't seen in a long, long time. And I keep in close contact with Jeff Carr and Andrew Bays and Forrest Foster and some of those guys, but some of these guys I haven't seen since '99. So it'll be fun to kind of get around those guys. Coach Logan's going to be there. Coach Connors is going to be there. So some of our favorite coaches, just to have that experience to be around them again for the first time in a while will be awesome.
And is Tim Rose going to be there?
I don't think so. I've not heard from Coach Rose. I loved playing for him. He loved me as a defensive back, and I love the way he coached. But I haven't heard anything from Coach Rose in a while.
Okay.
She'll be great. And Kevin, we appreciate you coming on. In fact, I know being a home game, you'll be there, and we'll have you and you and Andrew going to do one more question. You and Andrew are going to do the game together this week.
We are not. He was in the booth for a little while for the app game, but he just came to say hello and hang out with us for a while. But we split it down the middle. He does the away games, I do the home games, so he'll be around, but he won't be in the booth. Okay, I was just wondering, since both of you are part of the '99 team, have that together. But anyway, thank you so much. In fact, you guys will. Let's see, for the game on Saturday. What's the airtime again? I think it's 4 p.m.
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, 4
o'clock kickoff. So
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock airtime on the network.
Yep. All right. Appreciate you very much. And good luck to the Pirates. And hopefully we can be talking about a victory.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Thanks,
have a
Kevin.
good night.
Yep.
All right. Bye. Appreciate Kevin Monroe very much. And a patient man, very first time here on the podcast as we bring in Jared. Is it Kalmus? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was, I just want to make sure. He is a play-by-play voice of the Roadrunners, UTSA. Jared, thank you so much for coming on. Glad to have you.
Definitely not the play-by-play voice, but I do have a podcast, Alamo Audible, that I cover the Roadrunners for.
I thought you were the play-by-play. So let's talk about UTSA. Obviously, I know one of the things we want to talk about for the game. Can you talk any about the conference realignment? We are going to talk about the game, I promise, but what's going on there, because we've got some things going on behind the scenes here that we're not quite sure about. So we're just trying to piece it together from conference meet to conference meet.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride for UTSA over the past 3 or 4 days. I mean, there was a period on Saturday where it was essentially a done deal. I mean, from my understanding, they were lining up press conferences, press releases, that kind of stuff. And then it all just kind of fell apart pretty rapidly. So still trying to piece together, what was the impetus for all of that. I think financially, the opportunity in the Pac-12 was not as likely as the picture that was painted when they first started those negotiations, right? Obviously, the American has a fantastic, media deal with ESPN. And I think for the teams in the American that had the opportunity to go out west of the Pac-12, it was just tough to gamble on something that wasn't very certain. It later came out that the the Pac-12 was only planning to offer like $2 million in exit fees or something like that, which is just really, really hard to swallow because like the Pac-12 was saying they could get $10 to $15 million a year in media revenue, but like the actual number was maybe half of that. So it would have been pretty tough for any of those schools to kind of recoup that monetary amount. And I think the Pac-12 just kind of overestimated their brand value of having that legacy brand of the Pac-12. So I think at the end of the day, the juice was not worth the squeeze, and it seems like the Pac-12 did not come off too prepared and too professional in their discussions with these AAC programs. So it's been a wild ride, but I think for UTSA and the other programs that have that opportunity, it looks like they're making the right choice to stick around the American.
I think where the money would be for those Pac-12 schools and more money for the American would be, well, now you take 7 because Utah State, it's going to be interesting how that plays out with Utah State accepting the invitation. But if you took those 7 and then you merged them with the 14 in the American, it would have been a lot easier with 6. That would have made 20. And you have a coast-to-coast conference with 21 teams, I guess, instead of 20. And then you use that Pac-12 branding. I think that's where the money could really be, as a full merger with two distinct divisions. But nobody has the ability to think outside of the box and do anything creative, so we'll just keep doing what we do.
Well, I think for ESPN as the Americans media partner, they already have all those TV slots covered with their agreement with the Big 12 and with the Big 10 now, which is weird to say. So I don't know how many of those West Coast brands would bring a lot of value to ESPN, since they're going to be putting a lot of those Power 4 conference games on in those time slots. So it would be a logistical
when you turn on
ESPN
ESPN2, when you turn on ESPN2 and the 10 o'clock game is New Mexico State, they may need a little bit more content.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
So let's. Do you think, one more question about do you think it's fair for some kind of merger with AAC and Mountain West, or what's left of the Pac-12?
That's what I just asked him, Dave.
Well, that's what I was. Well, I know, but I was just wondering, as far as the merger seems more likely than not.
It would be hard for me to picture a merger. I just don't think the schools that are left would really bring a lot to the table. Some of the Pac-12 schools, sure. But let's keep in mind, the American had the chance to get Oregon State and Washington State a year ago and passed on that opportunity. So I don't know if anything's really changed from their perspective to make it worth that. I think the American's in a fine spot. So we'll see. I think Air Force could make sense to get that Commanders-in-Chief Cup, within the conference and do some branding with that. But I think right now, if I had to guess, I think the AAC will probably stand pat.
Yeah, then Utah State goes to the Pac-12, so you figure UNLV is probably going to follow suit at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, Air Force to the American would put us at 15. That's an uneven number. I would think you'd want to go 16. Would they add somebody from the East like Liberty? Would they add another Western school like New Mexico? If Air Force does become a member, just 15 seems odd. I don't know. I guess you can go with an uneven number. We don't do divisions anymore,
right?
So. But let's talk about the game this weekend with the Roadrunners. Obviously, you guys start off 2-2. You take care of business this past weekend against Houston Christian. You beat Kennesaw State. Tough loss to Texas State, and then you get blown out by Texas. But I guess that's to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
No Frank Harris. He was there 32 years. I think he was there before you started playing football. But your quarterback now has some experience. Played against Army last year. He's good, but he's not Frank Harris. What are you seeing out of the Roadrunners this year, particularly on the offensive side of the ball? You were able to put up 45, I believe it was, against Houston Christian. But up to that point, the offense has struggled, which is not something you're used to seeing out of the Roadrunners.
Yeah, it's been sluggish, I think, for the offense. Explosive plays have been hard to come by for the Roadrunners. They were able to get a few against Houston Christian, but that's a big talent gap that they had over the team, right? So a lot of things were just wide open. Just from a speed perspective. I think obviously losing Frank Harris is huge, right? There's no way to lessen that blow, even though Owen McCowan has played very well. He's been, pretty solid for UTSA under center. but it's actually been the continuity of the offensive line that's kind of been more of a setback than expected. They did bring in 3 transfers that are starting on the offensive line, one from Houston, one from Rutgers, and one from New Mexico. 2 of those 3 guys have like played okay individually, but just like the chemistry aspect of, knowing who's picking up the blitz and when to double team, when to chip, when to release the next level, that's been kind of slow to come by. So there's been a lot of those communication errors, and we've seen that improve week by week, right? The run blocking against Texas was actually quite physical, which is surprising given how talented Texas is. But the offensive line held up pretty well there. And then Houston Christian, they looked really good, right? So it's hard to reconcile that with what we saw in the first 2 games against Kennesaw State and Texas State, because they were not firing off the line. They were letting free blitzers through. So while I'm sure there has been some improvement there, East Carolina's got a great defense. They're super physical at the point of attack. So I think we're going to see what this offensive line is really about this week with a really solid test. Now they've got a couple of games under their belt, right, to kind of gel and mesh together.
Yeah, Jared, I was listening to Coach Traylor's comments, in his weekly press conference, and when asked by a member of the media, as far as his team's performance here of late, and specifically against Houston Christian, he talked about it being kind of what you just referenced, sharper, more clean. And he said that actually started against Texas, despite the lopsided score. And I had not heard that regarding the offensive line play, but for that reason, did not shock me to hear you say that. Obviously, Frank Harris gone, and I dropped out for a moment, so I apologize if you've already said something along the lines of the quarterback situation. But tell us about Owen McCown. I see he's throwing for right at 200 yards a game through 4 games, and has not thrown a pick.
Yeah, I think that's been the main thing with Owen is he's been really smart with the football. He's not thrown a pick. He hasn't thrown any throws that were even in the area of getting intercepted. So he's been very safe with the football, potentially too safe. Like there's been some plays where he had a receiver open, but he hesitated a little bit, where if he would have been a little bit quicker on the draw, it could have been a big play. So I think the main thing with Owen, he's been very, very accurate, right? He's putting the ball in the place the receiver can get to, not taking a lot of shots downfield. He's maybe had a handful of throws, over 20 yards all season long, right? And I think he's done an okay job avoiding, pressure in the pocket. He's definitely taken some sacks, but pretty good pocket presence there. I think the next step for him is just getting more comfortable with his receivers, right? UTSA lost a lot of production last year and the year before that out wide. And so they have some guys that have made some plays here and there, but I don't think Owen's really developed that connection with his receivers that like Frank Harris has had with, Josh Cephas, Zachary Franklin, Tyke Kellogg, like all these guys that kind of come through the program. So we'll see if that develops throughout the season for Owen, but I definitely wouldn't say he's been like the problem on the offense per se. I'm actually pretty happy with how he's played so far this year, especially for such a young guy.
You look at the Roadrunners defense. You guys schematically are similar to us. Pretty physical football team. Mm-hmm. You give us some points, but you play physical. Just give us a rundown of your defense.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. They look very similar to the ECU defense. I think the Pirates probably blitz a little bit more than UTSA does, but you got a very strong defensive line. They rotate heavily. They're going to be 2 deep, 3 deep at most of those positions up front. They've got some really dynamic playmakers on the outside linebacker as well. Jamori Robinson is like a 6'6", 250-pound athletic freak, and I want to say he's got a sack in every game this year or really close to it. And then on the other side of the line, they've got 2 players in kind of like that safety hybrid role. Donye Taylor and Owen Peavy, both guys have been super explosive this year, and they're just one of those guys, if they're anywhere near the ball, they're going to make a positive play. Interior linebacker has been solid. Cornerbacks, they've got some really good guys there. Denver Harris is a former 5-star that's come in and started and has played pretty well. One thing to watch this week for UTSA is their starting quarterback, Ken Robinson, is one of the most veteran guys on this defense. I think he's a 5-year player for the Roadrunners, and he missed the Houston Christian game. Actually, he missed the Texas game as well. And you could definitely feel his presence missing. A lot of miscommunications back there in the secondary. A lot of receivers running free, right? And we had not seen that when Robinson was back there at that free safety position. So it looks like he's probably not able to go again this week. So that'll be a huge miss for the Roadrunners. They also had one of the guys that was behind Robinson in the depth chart, Jimmy Wyrick. He's a Stanford transfer. He got banged up last week as well. So there's a potential that UTSA will have a true freshman out there for a lot of snaps against ECU. And I know the Pirates had the ability to stretch the ball downfield. So that's a huge thing to watch this week.
Hey, fair is fair. Siobhan Revel, number 28 for East Carolina. projected first round pick, is out for the year. So hey, I think we're even there.
No, I think you came out worse on that one for sure.
No,
But,
yeah, sure.
yeah.
So, Jared, we have a question here on Facebook from John White. He says, with the speed, the tempo at which the ECU offense plays, will that pose a problem with the rotation on D for the Roadrunners?
Yeah, I think it could. Not sure where ECU's tempo compares to Texas State, but Texas State is go go go. They're snapping the ball every couple of seconds, and there were several drives against Texas State where UTSA was not lined up when the ball was snapped, and a lot of times it's because they were doing that kind of line shift where they bring in 3 new players on the defensive line. So yeah, I would definitely say that could be a concern for UTSA. We'll have to see if they cleaned it up and learn from it. But I think, yeah, they might have to shorten the rotations a little bit, which they don't like to do. They like to play a ton of guys. That's part of their brand as a program, right? So yeah, I think that's a great call out.
And Jared, what about the special teams for UTSA?
It's not been pretty, for sure. They had a really good place kicker last year, Chase Allen. I think he was honorable mention all conference. He was great. I mean, he was rock solid from 40 yards in and hit some 45, 50-yarders as well. Maybe had a bit of the yips this year. He actually saw a sports psychologist, which seems to have helped so far. But they've definitely missed some field goals that they should have gotten. And the punting game has been really bad. They have a new punter this year, another Australian guy. He struggled. I think he's bottom 10% yards per punt. So when you have an offense that hasn't really hit its stride yet, and they're punting more than UTSA's used to, and you've got a new punter that's not booting it pretty far, yeah, it's. I think it's made the defense look worse than they actually are.
Now, we got an Australian punter too, and now that he's about 40, he's finally pretty consistent.
Right, that's the hope with this Australian that UTSA brought in. He's not young in age because they have a different academic classification system in Australia, but he'll have 3 years, right? And UTSA's previous Australian punter wasn't that great when he was a freshman either, and became a 2 or 3 time all-conference player. So, I think we'll probably see that same development for him. But right now, it's been a little rough.
And Jared, I apologize if this was addressed before you were talking about the punt situation. So I heard Coach Traylor in his weekly remarks reference something about kickoff or kickoff return, and that was something that needed to be addressed. What can you tell us there?
Well, I think it's been okay so far. Houston Christian did have one return that I think they got it out to midfield. Classic play, someone trips, block in the back missed, but still you got to find a way to bottle it up. I think those units have been pretty good for UTSA. The punt return had a pretty bad start to the season against Kennesaw State. For context, Kennesaw State's punter last year was kind of bad, and then he was just booming them week 1. I think it caught them off guard. So the small things to clean up as always, but it's not something that I see as a major concern for the program right now.
And I wanted to go back to the offensive side of the ball. And just looking at it, I know I saw a little bit of that game against Texas State, went back and watched the first quarter. Probably will watch more in the next day or two. But I was impressed with your tight end. And I see he has 6 or 7 receptions. And then you also have a receiver with 27 receptions, just 6.5 yards per catch, that has 3 touchdowns. But then you have a guy that's averaging nearly 20 yards per reception as well. So tell us about that trio.
Yeah, sure. So I think the tight end you're talking about is probably Houston Thomas. I think he was the one that had the long catch.
Yeah, Houston Thomas had 45-yard reception.
Yeah, so the tight end position has been interesting. They're playing 4 or 5 guys there. So they wanted to play a lot of 12 personnel coming into the season. We're starting to see them wean off of that a little bit because the performance from the tight ends hasn't been really consistent, right? A lot of drop passes there, a lot of missed blocks and stuff like that. So as UTSA's gone to more 11 and 10 personnel, the offense has picked up a little bit. So I think that's tough for UTSA. That's kind of ingrained in their style, is to use their tight ends. So we'll see how that trends out through the rest of the year. On the 2 receiver targets you mentioned, Devin McEwen is the one that has the low yards per catch. He's by far the best receiver on this team. He had a really strong freshman season last year. I think had about 500, 600 receiving yards as a freshman. But his role has kind of changed this year, right? He's the primary target, but they're using him more on the underneath routes. So he's drawing a lot of attention from the defense because he's the guy, right? So I'm curious to see if he's able to take some of these short catches and make a little bit more out of them, because he is pretty fast, he's pretty athletic. But they haven't really targeted him downfield all that much. There have been a couple plays that he was open and Owen didn't see him or didn't have time to connect with him. But the other receiver that has been getting open downfield is William McCoy. So he had a big touchdown catch last week. He's a super, super fast guy, but he has dropped some really key passes. If you think back to that first quarter against Texas State, there was one that he had probably 2 or 3 yards of separation from the cornerback coming out of the end zone after turnover. The ball hits him just right here, right in the face, and he drops it. And that was kind of the turning point of that game, right? They went from, generating a goal line stand and getting a turnover, potentially moving the ball to midfield with a big play through the air, and then they drop that, they get a 3-and-out, and the game turned into a total disaster. So I think consistency is the key with McCoy, and hopefully his touchdown catch last week, gives him a little bit of confidence to keep playing at a high level.
Unusually, UTSA has not traveled out of the state of Texas this year for home games. Obviously, you don't do that, but both your non-conference games against Texas and Texas State, or both your away games against Texas and Texas State, were in the state of Texas. A long way from San Antonio to Greenville. It's not like it's a bunch of freshmen. They've traveled before. Do you think it'll have any impact?
Yeah, I think so. Historically, UTSA's not played all that well when they're on the East Coast. So it's an intimidating environment at ECU as well.
Two best environments in the American, East Carolina and UTSA.
Yeah, for sure. So, I thought they were a little rattled even against Texas State. And that crowd is half the size as what they're going to see at ECU this week. So, I definitely think that's a concern. There's a lot of young guys on this UTSA roster, right? And starting with the quarterback, right? He did start 4 games when he was at Colorado, and got to see some decent, Power 4 environments there. But I think it's like the talent around him is new to college football, right? So I think that that is probably something that we'll see a trend out for them this year. I think learning how to win on the road is really hard when you're a young team.
Jared, I had a question real quick about this program as far as how much it's grown. I've heard a lot of compliments over the last year or two about with San Antonio being a huge city. There's really not obviously a pro football team there. A lot of the public I've heard has adopted UTSA kind of like a pro team, if you will, because there's really no game in town when it comes to pro football. I know you have the Cowboys and the Texans, but can you talk about that, how the fan base has grown?
Yeah, definitely. It's been awesome. It certainly doesn't hurt that UTSA's won a lot of football games the past 5 years, right? Everyone loves a winner. But it is really cool to see it. Some of the most hardcore supporters of the Roadrunners did not go to school at UTSA, right? In a lot of cases, they went to Big 12 and SEC schools, but now they're, several hundred miles removed from that campus. And obviously they're not going back for those home games all the time. So they kind of adopt UTSA as a second program, and that's fantastic. I'll take all the shirts that I can get, right? If they throw, $100 a year at NIL, every little bit counts. But the support that UTSA has gotten from the community it's such a force multiplier for the Roadrunners, right? They have a lot of support in city council, the commissioner's court, the county level. They've been able to get a lot of municipal bonds passed to help fund facilities and stuff like that. So at both the micro and the macro level, it's been a huge boon for UTSA. And I don't know if you guys have seen this, but recently UTSA announced their merger with the UT Health school right down the road from them, right? So pretty much overnight, their enrollment is going to grow to 40,000 next year. Their endowment is going to be $1 billion, which is just completely mind-blowing for someone that went to school when that number was probably 75 million. So it's just been an insane growth, and the trajectory they're on is pretty wild. I guess it's probably similar to what USF has gone through. So it's definitely interesting to see, and we'll see how far they can take it.
Jared, we have a question here on YouTube from William Landon. Will says, ask Jared if UTSA's defense is more vulnerable to the run or the passing game.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the passing game for sure. It's kind of UTSA style, right? They like to play really aggressive. They like to put a lot of guys on line of scrimmage. They like to blitz, right? So as you guys know, when you do that, there's the opportunity that the offense is going to find the open spot in the zone and take advantage of that. And I think especially with that injury to Ken Robinson, like I mentioned, the depth at safety has been probably the biggest, the thinnest part of the roster under Jeff Traylor's watch. Pretty much every year he's been here, they've had 2 good safeties and not too much behind that. So that, they found a third safety this year, that the Wyrick kid from Stanford that I mentioned, and, he's a little banged up. So to have a true freshman on the road this week, probably going to play 30 snaps or 40 snaps or something like that. That's definitely my concern for this week. And, we'll see if Garcia is able to connect downfield and make UTSA feel the pain for that.
Jared, will you be making the trip from San Antonio?
Fall wedding, brother. It's brutal. It was the road game that I had circled in the offseason, but you know how it goes.
Who's getting married?
It's a wife's friend.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Just come with
she's a bridesmaid, so no getting out of that one.
You'll just get some good pictures. She'll forgive you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I wish so.
Yeah. Well, that was one question I had. I know looking at I double checked, but I'm pretty sure we're coming. Let me double check that. I believe we are coming. Let's see, next year, I believe off the top of my head. Yes, we're going to be next year at San Antonio. So for people that like circle, maybe like those of us that love to go to a like Army or UTSA, can you talk about that, things that people could do? Why they should come?
Yeah, UTSA plays in the Alamo Dome, so they're very, very close to the Riverwalk, right? You can stay in a hotel right there on the Riverwalk and just be able to walk along the river to all kinds of bars and restaurants and all that. And, you're, a 15-minute walk from the Alamo Dome. So it's a really awesome setup. It's great for visiting fans. There's a reason why San Antonio draws the Final Four and stuff like that so often. It's just a great place to visit when you're kind of in that core downtown district. Great food, great barbecue, obviously different style than what you guys do up there. Great Mexican food as well. So yeah, I really recommend it. And I've heard a lot of people too that they've kind of combined it with a family trip as well, because you can come out and do the amusement park at Fiesta, Texas, and we've got a SeaWorld out here. So it's a lot of fun stuff to do. To just, check the weather, right? Because if it's like a September, October game, it's going to be hot as hell. So if it's in November, you're looking pretty good. But that heat is nothing to scoff at for sure.
No doubt. We're looking forward to the game, and obviously great to have you guys in the conference. I like that ad. That was one of the teams that I thought was a smart move to have you guys with the growing city, where your program has been, like I was talking about, just admire and respect the fan base, and what you guys go on the Alamo Dome is really cool. So hopefully we can make that trip for sure with maybe my kids will be able to, they would love that. In fact, I just learned that I did not know there was a SeaWorld there with you guys. So that would be, my daughter's a huge animal fan. So that would be cool points for dad, for me.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Tell people before we let you go about, obviously I see the Alamo Audible publisher and you're a producer. So talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we've been doing Alamo Audible for 8 years now, which is crazy. Myself individually, I've covered the program since the very first practice when I was a student. So myself and my co-host Adrian, we've been around the program forever. We do a weekly podcast during the season and some bonus episodes on our Patreon as well. So we're on all the major, platforms. We're on YouTube as well, the video version. So if you guys want to check us out there, we're going to record our episode as soon as I hop off with you guys. So it'll be hot and ready for film tomorrow.
We'll check that out, and obviously on X at Jared UTSA. So
yes, sir.
We'll definitely follow you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time, and thanks for being patient with us. And
of course,
we'll look forward to the game on Saturday.
All right, thank you guys. It's gonna be a good one for sure.
All right, have a good night. Bye-bye. All right, guys. Appreciate Jared coming on, and of course, man, Kevin Monroe, awesome. What can you say? That 99 team.
Speaking of Jared, I don't mean to cut you off, Dave, but Jared and podcast. What happened to that other podcast with that other Jared? Are they still around?
Yes,
they are. Oh, I didn't even realize.
Yes, they are.
Well, good for them.
Let's talk about. Let's get your thoughts on. I'll throw it around both of you about the game. How you feeling about the atmosphere? Do you think I'm feeling a little bit better than I did on early Sunday morning about as far as the crowd goes? I still am bullish on the Pirates on the game on what I think will be a win. But what do you guys think?
In terms of the crowd,
yeah,
it's family weekend.
Yep.
I think losing back-to-back games will hurt some. I would expect a similar crowd to Norfolk State. I would expect 35,000, 36,000.
Okay.
Maybe as many as 37,000. Weather's supposed to be good. It's gonna be a little warm. High of 85. 4 o'clock kick. which was 6 o'clock kick. By the way, these games on ESPN Plus. Do we have any say over the time of the kick when they're on Plus? Why not kick it off at 6 if we do? Administration, please. Unless it's November, but I think it'll be anywhere between 34 and 37,000 for the attendance. Bubba, what do you think, as far as crowd?
I agree with you 100%.
I think it'll be somewhere in that neighborhood. Perhaps a little bit more with it being family weekend. It's perhaps somewhere in the middle of Norfolk State and App State, upper 30s, or may hit 40.
Man, that would be great if we can hit 40,000. Man, I agree with you, Kyle. I was thinking 38, high 30s is what I was guessing, but I didn't know if I were off. And being that very thing, a family weekend and a lot going on, certainly the Pirates, better than, this 2-2 record. We could easily be 4-0. So I hope the fans will come out, support your team, and let's have Dowdy Ficklin. Let's have Dowdy rocking.
Yeah, let's help them win. I mean, well, we provided a good atmosphere for App State. Let's do it again for UTSA. I believe, we should have beaten App. This is a game we can start off 1-0 in conference. Everybody's negative after the last 2 weeks. Let's go into this thing with a positive attitude until proven otherwise, and try to help the boys bring home a victory and get to 3-2 on the year, going into Charlotte with a chance to get to 4-2. So it's big conference game this weekend.
No doubt.
Guys, you want to give the scores here, or give
the
scores?
By the way, I was going to say.
Go ahead, Bubba.
Go ahead.
It's kind of cutting out. I was just going to say, guys, that I'm going to buy Biff a T-shirt if we win. Maybe add to his.
He started wearing sleeves.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
First things first, we got to get through UTSA. But predict the scores, Dave. You want to go first?
Wow, you put me. I've been busy at work this week. So far, it's been nuts. But that's a good problem to have, to be busy. Let's see.
You say so.
Yeah. I will go. I know it's a 4-point spread. I believe, isn't that right? Still 4?
Yeah.
Okay. I had let's see. The only time I've really thought about it very little this week so far since Sunday morning, breakfast time. I'm going to go. I'll say Pirates 31. For some reason, the 31 is in my head, and I said 31 points, and I'll say 31-27.
You almost had my exact score. I got East Carolina 31, UTSA 24.
Oh wow! What about you, Bubba? What do you think? We got some folks chiming in too on Facebook, and obviously, if you want to put your score, then put that in the comment section, and we'll add that to what we think.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and mention Richard Allsbrook says Pirates 35, Roadrunners 31, and John White says East Carolina 38, UTSA 35.
So John, you're probably right, because East Carolina, we have a hard time covering, right? Isn't that what we're known for with betting?
We covered against App, didn't we? I don't know. We covered against Old Dominion. We did not cover against Liberty. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I think that's a little. I think there's going to be more high scoring than the games we played so far this year, but I think 38-35 might be a little too high. But
yeah, the over under, for what it's worth, 56.5.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And so far the predictions are all overs.
So here comes Bubba with the different. He's going under.
Well, no, I think it could be close to that, but I certainly don't think it's going to be a total of 73, as John does, or 66 like Richard.
We'll take it either way as long as the Pirates win.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I don't care. Sure, I'd prefer not to give up that many points, but I don't care if it's 50 to 49, as long as the Pirates get the dub. But thus far, kind of leading into my projection, in 3 games against FBS opponents, we've scored. Technically, we've scored 56 offensive points, I believe, but one of those was a 1-yard drive, and we'll take all those we can get. If we can force turnovers and have several short fields, then great. But point being that the offense has really struggled in the red zone. 9 out of 16 in the red zone, and just 6 touchdowns in 16 trips to the red zone. So. First of all, need to get there more often. When you do, you got to score more touchdowns, and definitely, can't come away with points on just over half of your trips, because third down conversion wise, the Pirates have been pretty good. I think right around 50%. But so I think this may be the game. If Jake Garcia continues to take care of the football, we can eliminate some of the drops that we've had, like our new short yardage goal line set, where we bring in J.D. Lampley and also Zion Wilson. And, you had 6'3", 260, 6'3", 318 lining up there in the backfield in that jumbo set. And it was 2 for 2 against the Flames. So hopefully that was a sign of things that a little foreshadowing there of how we'll execute in the red zone. And I think I'll go East Carolina 27, UTSA 20.
27-20. Okay. I'll
going under. Huh?
I'll take it.
No doubt. I'll tell you what, like you said, Bubba, spot on. I know Kyle, everybody watching and listening, all we want when it's all said and done is the win. And all we do is win, Kyle.
And no, that's not the case. But
What's your favorite song?
I'll gladly hear that piece of garbage song this Saturday.
I had to give you a softball, low hanging fruit there for you, my friend. And exactly, I will. I don't care what they play. I just want to win. I
think P. Diddy produced that song, so we got to quit playing it.
Oh my God! Oh, don't get me started on that one. Matt says this defense does not give up over 21 Saturday. So I assume he's talking about East Carolina. So, hey, I hope you're right, Matt. That would be fantastic. And what do you think, Bubba, on the defensive side? 21? You said.
Well, he said
20. I said
so
27-20. So, yeah, I agree. I agree with Matt. I think this defense will, after the last 2 games, especially last game, though, in the app game was a little bit different situation. Yeah, you gave up 424 yards passing, but you certainly still played well enough to win the game. But last week, 5 touchdowns and 5 possessions. I hate to beat a dead horse there, but never thought we'd see that. And I can assure you that those guys, Coach Harrell and the players, did not. So I think they'll really have a chip on their shoulder, come out playing well. I think UTSA, not bad offensively, but you notice what Jared said, and Johnny Robertson had a comment here as Grimes on Bigfoot on YouTube. He said,
"Oh, I didn't know that." Okay, hey, I was wondering about that.
He said Owen McCown, although he doesn't throw the ball down the field a ton, and is in Jared Kalmus of the Alamo Audibles opinion, just perhaps a little too safe and doesn't take enough calculated risk. But he is 6 of 9, over 20 yards when he does throw the ball down the field. So that's something to really keep an eye on, since he doesn't do that a lot against an East Carolina defense that has really struggled to defend the pass the last 2 weeks. And I just think that I don't know that they have enough big play potential with their offense, and are executing consistently enough like Liberty to really put up a lot of points. In Liberty obviously put up those 35 in just over a half, because guys, I was kind of going back and crunching those numbers. Liberty's first 5 possessions, 18 plays, a total of 24 yards. their last 5 possessions, as we know, 5 touchdowns, 58 plays, 376 yards, and just simply could not get off the field on third down. And that's probably one of the biggest 180s that I've seen, from totally shutting somebody down to not being able to stop them at all. I felt like I was, with it being 1:30, 2 a.m. when all this was happening, I felt like I was in the twilight zone.
You could say that again, man. That was tough. And here we go. Here's another one. In their 2 losses, the Pirates have possessed the ball only 5 minutes and 49 seconds of 30 fourth quarter minutes, and that is unbelievable. 19%.
Yeah, you got the defense.
Wow.
The defense has got to get off the field late in the game, and the offense has got to possess the ball longer. That they need to help each other out, both on those situations.
And not only the possessing of the ball, but JR, correct me if I'm wrong on this. Just thinking back, throwing out Norfolk State, obviously, because that's an FCS opponent. In our 3 FBS games, have we scored a touchdown against an FBS opponent in the fourth quarter?
In the fourth quarter, yes, we did against Liberty.
We did last week.
No.
Yes. Was that late third?
I think it was late. I'm pretty sure
it was early fourth.
It's late third. It was late third because it was in the end zone opposite of where I was standing in the field house end of the stadium, because then the pick came when the Pirates were driving my direction there in the final 2 minutes.
Okay, well then no, came close. We came close against Old Dominion, and Garcia threw a pick on first down. So,
point being, once again, just finishing drives, especially in crunch time, trying to win close games. And we made a little progress last week, but we still, came away with the field goal when we probably should have had a touchdown, and then came away empty when we missed a 24-yard field goal. So that's got to change. If that does not change, then we're probably going to come up on the short end Saturday, and anytime we play a average to above average opponent.
I feel good about Saturday. I think we got to win this one.
I agree. And you guys said it, early on in the show, Kyle, why you feel like these are must wins for different reasons. As far as that home losing streak against FBS opponents, and it being currently at 7, and then Charlotte, that's self-explanatory.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then the thing that matches up, guys, and I know you're going to say I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm really not getting ahead of myself. But do you guys remember, JR, you were there 2 years ago. We played this team, and we came back and we met the team in Greenville at the airport. And we played the team, and that was the team that we became bowl eligible in 2022. Do you remember what team that was?
That when we became bowl eligible in 22 or 21?
22.
What game? BYU.
It was Temple on the road.
No.
2022 Temple's the final game of the regular season.
Okay, it must have been 21 we're there. But anyway,
No, in 21 it was at Memphis.
Okay, I thought we played Temple and beat them, and then they came home. Anyway, we played Temple on October 26th. That game, we could potentially be bowl eligible. We'll take it one game at a time. But considering where we are, the reason I bring that up is not to get ahead of myself. Just saying that I still have faith in this team and where we are. This is September 24th. We're recording the show live. And, 1 month later, we could be bowl eligible. Anything is possible. So don't give up on this team.
Sure. I'd be perfectly ecstatic if we get win number 5 that day against Temple. If we take care of business these next 2, we go lose to Army.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose to Army. But look, who gives a damn about that right now? Let's beat UTSA. Yeah.
Most definitely. And let's see who. All right. Who else is does anybody have any final thoughts? And then we'll get the final thoughts from the guys as we've had a great preview.
Yeah, and I do want to say this to Johnny Robertson's point. If we do that this week, I knock on wood, I don't see UTSA coming back on us. But
in fact, Matt says defense on the field too long, and then you start running the ball a bunch to try to give, I guess, the players and people people
Time of possession.
Oh, time of possession. That's right. And people are irate as they see we run the ball too much. Yeah, you're playing Michigan, the national champion. We were trying to, stay close, keep the game close, trying to, not get blown out. But when you're playing 50-50 games, you can't do that. Playing not to lose is not the way to win ball games.
Well, running the ball doesn't mean you win a lot of games running the ball, but you need to have a balanced attack, and you don't need to go way too conservative, which we have done at times because we're scared Garcia's going to turn the ball over. And right now we have depth issues at running back. Bond is hurt. Gunn is not 100%. I'd like to see Montgomery on the field more. You can't just rely on Rajay every damn down, and God forbid, I don't even want to say it, but anyway, that's my final thought, guys. Depth at running back is a little bit of concern. That's something we haven't talked about with Bond continuing to be hurt. Gunn is almost at 100%, not there yet. And for some reason, we haven't seen Montgomery on the field hardly any since the Norfolk State game. Yeah.
So frustrating that with Javius Bond. Such a playmaker. When he's healthy, he touched the ball 3 times against Liberty and had 26 yards, but that
last
time left hobbling.
Do we know if he's healthy this week? Did anybody bother to ask Houston about his status, or is he? We're not supposed to ask about injuries at the press conference, are we?
I did not hear. I did not hear Coach Houston get asked that. Have not been able to watch Inside Pirate Athletics from Monday night, so I'll see if anything was mentioned on there about JV Spawn's status.
I'll reach out to Igo. He'll probably know. Guys, that's all I got. I'm wrapping it up on my end. You guys can keep talking all night if you want to, but I'm out of here. I will see you Saturday as we take on the Roadrunners. Meet, baby, and go Pirates. You guys finish it up.
All right, he's out. Kyle from the Grange is out. Sign out. Bubba, do you have anything before we get out of here?
No, just appreciate everyone tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click that notification bell so anytime we upload new content like Sights and Sounds this weekend from Dowdy Ficklin and go live, anything of that nature, you're alerted on your device. But appreciate the support.
No doubt. A lot of great friends and family and new friends. So cool to be walking around and even when you're at away games, people that love the show. So thank you so much. The fans are the reason that the fans of the program and now fans of the show, you're the reason why we keep doing it. And we have been for 6.5 years, well over 1,000 episodes. And thank you, Bubba, for your hard work behind the scenes, my friend.
You're certainly welcome. And, I did, admit to go to this when we had Jared on from the Alamo Audible, but we'll go ahead and play it since I have it uploaded. These are some of Coach Traylor's remarks from yesterday's press conference that I found interesting concerning Blake Harrell and the Pirate defense.
You've mentioned their defense, and obviously, especially against the run, they're very highly regarded. What makes them so effective in that way?
It's their chaos. Just watch their blitz patterns. I mean, he's done a super job there. He's been at DC now for 5 years, and he's just really good. Well, they disguise their looks very well, and they play with unbelievable reckless abandon. They're very physical, and they have a lot of pride in their defense, and that's why they're the best team in the league at defense. And, our guys get motivated by that as well, because that's something we've always aspired to be. But UAB was kind of that defense, and now we've come into this league. It's been, East Carolina and Memphis.
Birds up. That's one thing you always hear Coach Traylor say when he ends a press conference: "Birds up."
I learned something. There you go. I didn't know there was a Sea World in San Antonio, and I didn't know that. So I definitely learned something tonight. All right, Bubba, do you have some more clips, or is that?
No, not that was it. Just that one, but a lot of respect for, as Coach Schwartz would say, ton of respect from Coach Traylor for Blake Harrell and what the Pirate defense has been able to do in recent seasons.
No doubt, and we appreciate all of your support of the program, the Pirate Preview. Obviously, coming up we'll have on Sunday night, as usual, the Pirate Playback, and probably in the prime time, we'll say in the 8 o'clock hour, if you will, and we look forward to that. And you can, by the way, want to remind everybody, you can give us a call to 252-290-0375, and we're going to keep working on our phone system and everything. And so let's make sure the main thing is let's get a win on Saturday. Thanks to Kevin Monroe, who is a former player and of that 99 team they're going to be honoring on Saturday. And hard to believe 25 years, but what a great run they had for sure. And then don't forget about that. And don't forget about obviously my friend Jared, a new friend from the Alamo Audible, Jared Kalmus. Appreciate his coming on and visiting of the program. All right. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you, Bubba, very much. We miss Matt. I know he's been working really hard. Appreciate you, buddy, as well. We'll get out of here and appreciate you watching and listening to the Pirate Preview here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody. And as always, go Pirates.
You're watching the Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.